Good morning and welcome to Work and Community Services. This is our training session on resume writing. We're going to start learning the basics of what goes in a resume, and this will be a three-part series. Begins today and will then continue next Thursday and the Thursday after that. It's important to have a good resume it to highlight our skills for employers because you want something that's going to capture their attention and match up with a lot of different search techniques that they use in regards to finding qualified candidates. You may have all the experience in the world, but if you're not using the correct terms or terminology on your resume and you apply online, your resume will not get flagged as a potential candidate due to this. And something that a lot of our individuals we serve, you guys, you may not know what a resume is. So this training's for you to kind of help teach you how to put together a winning resume. So please join us. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. I am also monitoring chat. So, how to write an effective resume. Today, our learning objectives are what is a resume? We're going to look at the definition of a resume, what's the difference between a resume and a cover letter. Next, we're going to go what to include in a resume. So, what are the different parts of a resume? You got your contact information, your skills/competencies, your work experience, and your education. And then we're going to look at the 6 universal rules for resume writing. This was something that I found in my research and something that I think kind of helps, was very informative to me that I even want to go back and look over my resume. So that is, cover all the basics, explore other resumes for inspiration, use as few words as possible, quantify your accomplishments whenever possible, use keywords that employers are using, and proofread, proofread, proofread. You don't know how many times and how many resumes I've seen over the years that misspell words or using improper grammar or just using the wrong word for what they're trying to convey. And those are things that we'll discuss. So, first off, what is a resume? Yes, it's not resume, it is resume. So it is a short document used to summarize a job seeker's experience and qualifications for a prospective employer. It includes contact information, work experience, education, and essential skills to promote yourself for a job. The resume is considered to be the most critical part of the modern job application process. Being able to write the best application possible is very important to your process in finding a job. What are the differences between a resume and a cover letter? Well, a resume is a listing of your experience and skills. And it is short and to the point, and its formatting is usually using bullet points and columns. Whereas a cover letter, it is the sales pitch or hook. It is story driven, an introduction. It is what you're using to introduce yourself to an employer. And its formatting is generally in paragraphs and sentences. Not every job application will require a cover letter. Most do require a resume, but on those select jobs that you need to have a cover letter, then it's important to know how to put one together, but we'll discuss that on another one of our episodes. Right now, we're mainly just concerned about resume. I don't want you to get confused between the two. The resume is the technical aspect of it. The cover letter is the story. So, parts of a resume, what you should include when preparing a resume. Very first and most important item to include on your resume is the contact information. At a minimum, a resume should include your contact information. It should always be at the top of the sheet. Unless you are in a specific field or trying for a certain job like graphic design or marketing or something that requires a lot of creativity, you want to keep your contact information at the top, and you want it to be as clear as day. The most universal format is to center it with your name in a large bold text that is easy to read. As you see in our example there, Beth Smith is right there. It's the largest font, and you can see that it's bold and it sticks out. So when you look at this resume, the first thing you see is the name. And then the mailing address, your current phone number, and an email address are all advised to be put on there because they're all forms of contact. Yes, I doubt that they are going to be mailing you a letter anytime soon, but it is always best case, best practices to put your current street address on there. Email address. If you don't have one, then you may want to, look into the steps on what you need to do to have an email address to put on your resume. A lot of people have 2 email addresses or more, depending on what they've been up to. My personal experience, I have my personal email address that I use for a lot of different things. And then I have a professional email address that I use to put on my resume. Because nobody wants, an email address that says big honkin' mama at such and such.com as an email address on your resume. It's very unprofessional. And if an employer sees that, they're probably not going to try to want to reach out to you. So, like Beth has on hers, she's got her first and last name, Beth Smith at Comcast.net. That is the email address she uses for that. It's very clean, very professional looking. And then phone numbers. If you have a landline, put that there. If you got a cell phone number is preferred because generally you have that number with you at all times. You carry it with you, so you're very easy to get a hold of if they would call that number. And if you have a LinkedIn profile, you can include the URL for a direct link to your profile. And if you see in the bottom middle of the top, it says www.linkedin.com/Beth Smith. Ooh, I can't talk this morning. That is her LinkedIn URL. If an employer would type that into their computer, or if they have the electronic version of your resume, they can do a couple quick things to click on it, and it'll shoot them directly to your LinkedIn account. Next week, maybe I will show you what my LinkedIn account looks like. So you can see LinkedIn is a social media network, but it's for professional adults. It's not something you go on there to play games. It's not something you go out there to build a family with. Or hook up on a date or anything. It is strictly professionals. It's used for networking. I've even used it to look for jobs. So it's really a professional work-related social media network that you can use. You can post your resume there. A lot of times recruiters and companies will do a keyword search, and if something on your resume matches their keywords that they're looking for, you could come up in a search and have somebody call you out of the blue and say, hey, I want to interview you. I'd like to bring you into my company and talk to you about that. You can build your network of different people. I've got contacts from when I worked at jobs 20 years ago. So it's really a way that you can stay in touch with a lot of different people that you've worked with in industries. But we can get into that later. So those are the main things that you need on the top of your resume every time you make a resume. It can all be centered like this. You'll see I don't know if I've got a couple other different, let's see. Yeah, here we go. All right, so here's some contact information examples. We've got Justin J. Henry over here. You can see that he's just got his name in big bold letters. And then underneath it directly, he didn't put any, he didn't double space it. You don't have to double space it like the previous one, Beth Smith did. You can include it all like this. Actually, all these look the same basically. Um, and then he's got his cell phone number and an email address that's not, over the top. It's kind of professional looking. Um, and then Susie here, she's got it in a little bit different format, but kind of similar. And then Dan, he doesn't have a phone number or an email address. He's just got an address and a LinkedIn URL. I would not advise using this. This would be the one that I would stay away from because there's no easy way to contact this person. As you can see, all three of these examples have everything centered. Some people, I think, if I look at mine might be on the left um, of the top left of the page. But either way, no matter how you have it formatted on the top, you want it to be displayed prominently. All right, skills and competencies. It was interesting when I was putting this thing together. I saw one article that was talking about how soft skills are a thing of the past. Well, they're not a thing of the past. They just call them differently nowadays. People claim that hard skills are what people need nowadays, but a lot of companies that I know of are still looking for those soft skills, which they now term essential skills. It is very important, especially for a good work environment, to have employees that have the type of essential skills where they can get along with their coworkers and do the things that they need to get the job done. Yes, you do need technical experience and have those hard skills, but some of those can be taught, and a lot of those are easier to teach than how to resolve conflict or get along with your partner. Those are the ones that they're looking for. So many large companies use applicant tracking software to assist with the online applications they receive. These tracking programs scan hundreds of resumes looking for keywords and ranking applications based on the needs of the position they want to fill. Resume keywords might be job titles, essential skills, or qualifications. What did I just say? I know you're going, this doesn't make sense to me. What are you talking about? Applicant tracking software. It's a huge growing business right now, and HR officials in the past used to scan resumes by hand. They would look at them with their own eyes and circle or highlight or look for the keywords on their own to see, what can they see within 1 minute of looking on a resume that pulls their attention, that they want to try to talk to this person and potentially hire them for a job here. They've now created software that does all that for them. So if your resume is not speaking the right language, then that algorithm, that tracking software is going to pass by your resume, or it's not going to rank it higher than other ones. Yes, you don't want to go out and just outright lie on stuff, but you definitely want to make sure it matches. How do you ensure that you have the right search terms and a high match rate to get noticed? First, you want to study the job description and pick out the top keywords. Some of the examples I found: customer service, accounts receivable, Adobe Photoshop. If an employer is looking for those specific things, that's what we want to include prominently on our resume. You also want to research the company. What are they good at? Do you know anything about the processes they use to get the work done? Again, this goes back to what we learned during our interviewing class, is we really want to do our research and find out what's going on. And this will be something too that I try to, which I'm not sure if I'll do it next week. It might be the week after that. We'll sit and we'll go through a job description together, and I'll point out some keywords that we should be looking for, and we'll try to incorporate those into a resume. So we'll kind of sit and walk through it together, so that way you can kind of see what we're doing. So, some samples of essential skills on a resume. And I like these formattings, this bullet point formatting, because it really kind of just breaks it up. And you're not going into detail. You want them quick, fast, so anybody looking at them or any computer program that is going over them can see it quickly. It's all about speed and reviewing stuff. So when you format stuff like this, it's easier to read, but you've got your key stuff: customer service, problem solving, time management, relationship building, order processing, cash handling, conflict issue resolution, record file maintenance, ethics and integrity. Those are good core competencies, good skills to have. Um, Key skills there at the bottom. If you're going for like a tech degree, how do you specify what kind of skills that you have to work in that field? This person put down coding and programming, the programming language that they are familiar with. They listed them all out there, and scripting languages and e-commerce. You know, those are all things that if this person was applying to work at like Amazon in their website management division, those are kind of key skills that they would want to have on their resume, so that way that would boost their resume to the top of the list on getting an interview. um, this person looks like good. This one over here on the right, middle right, team selling, lead in negotiation, recruiting and hiring, channel development, meeting and exceeding revenue and margin quotas, forecasting, measurement, reporting. Looks like a pretty good sales type of resume, or marketing, or something within the business field. So they're really kind of highlighting what kind of essential skills they have. And those are keywords that they probably picked out of the job description. So they just plug them right into the resume, and that algorithm's going to pick that up and float their resume to the top. Those are things that we have to be aware of. Work experience. Yay, work experience. I want to put every single job on my resume that I feel that I've earned the right since I worked there. And at any, it could have been 1 week long that I worked there, I'm going to put on my resume. Is that correct? No. That is not the case anymore. Did you know that? I had a good friend that I worked with at another job who actually helped redo my resume many years ago, and brought this to light that if the job doesn't pertain to what you're applying for, then you may not want to include it on your resume. He took my 2.5 page resume and condensed it down to one sheet. Did it work? Yeah, it did. I got the job I wanted. So, the heart of your resume is the information that is your work experience. It can have different titles. Some people call it work experience, some people call it professional experience, or others call it employment history. No matter what you call it, it is all experience that you've gained by working other jobs. You only want to list the jobs that are relevant to the job that you are applying for. Say you're trying to interview for a sales job, then you don't want to include washing dishes at a restaurant, because that's not going to help you with that sales job that you're doing. And jobs should be listed in reverse chronological order, current job listed first. This is confusing for some people because they want to start from their history and go, you know, down that way. You think, oh, it's the oldest job, it should go at the top because you're listed in chronological order, with the oldest job being first. But for a resume, you want reverse chronological. So the most current job that you're working, if you're working at a job like right now, I would put program manager work services at Goodwill Columbus as my first job at the top of my resume. And then the next one down there would be lead training specialist at Goodwill Columbus. And then down there, training specialist. And then before that, it would be night youth leader at the Buckeye Ranch. From there, it could be, I don't know what Holmes Lumber would have to do with it, but I was a salesman at a lumber yard before that. It would depend on the job that I'm applying for. I don't even think that I put that on my latest resume because it had nothing to do with what I'm currently doing because it was a completely different field of work. Yeah, I could have put on there the time I worked at the movie theater, the time I worked at KB Toys, when I worked for an architect's office, even the short time that I did custodial work. Those things don't pertain to the field of work that I'm doing now, so I don't want to include them on my resume. You need to think about that too. Not everybody that's going to pay attention and learn from this may have work experience on there outside of what they've done here at the workshop. But that's still work experience. You got paid to do work. The guys on the mobile crew, you can include that mobile crew associate or mobile crew team member. Those are jobs that we can list on a resume because that's work experience that you've got. So under the main heading that you choose, whether you're choosing work experience, professional experience, or employment history, how do you list your jobs? You want to do the company name, the job location, so the address. It would be, Columbus, Ohio, or I would put the physical address of this location, which is 4395 Marketing Place. And then you want to put your job or position title, and then your start and end dates. That you only need the month and year. If it's a long time, then maybe only year to year. You don't have to put the specific start date with a specific end date. It can be general as just a month and year. And under each job, you want to include responsibilities and measurable results that are relevant to the job for which you are applying for, and emphasize skills and experiences that are asked for in the job description. We talked about all that with the essential skills in this just before we got here, so we're doing it again. What's the difference, you say? Well, there's a little bit more explanation in under work experience. It's not just a few words on a bullet point. This is going to be a longer description. That's still going to be less than what you would do for writing a paragraph, but we'll get to that here. So here's a couple examples. So on the left, we've got, math teacher. He worked there. See how he's got March 2007 to current. And it was Red Mountain Middle School, London, England. That's basically all you need. The way that he's got things listed out. Conduct small group and individual classroom activities with students based on differentiated learning needs to ensure all students are learning at full potential. That sounds pretty good, very professional, right? And that's kind of how you're going to word your stuff under your work experience. The person on the other side, so look at that, he's got professional experience, whereas the guy on the left just has it as experience. We got vice president, solution sales. He's got just a year, 2007 to 2010. He's got the company name, and then over on the other side, he's got, the city and state, Bellevue, Washington. I'd love to go out and visit Washington again. It's been years since I've been out there. His formatting's a little bit differently. He's got a brief description of what his job was, served in key leadership position with a successful mid-sized $65 million engineering services, products, and IP licensing business, hired to expand North American services business and drive expansion into EMEA. I have no idea what any of that means, but a previous version of my resume had something similar. There was a brief description of what that job was, and then underneath that he's got the bullet points of the specific job aspects, and I like it. He's got quantifiable stuff, and we're going to talk about this soon. Led the team that gives engineering services sales by 40% in 2 years. Customers included, he's got some big name customers in there. So definitely, he's given numbers in there that kind of help grow things along. So both of these formats aren't bad and can be used on your resume. Education. This one's always a very tricky one on what you want to do. The only items you need to list for your educational background are the name of the institution or school, the degree that you got. Did you get your diploma? Did you get your GED? Do you got some college? Do you have an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree? Those are all things you need to list. Where's the school located and the years you attended? Um, so this one here is the example I found was a little bit different than um, what I just listed off, but it gives you a different alternative. He's got the University of California at Santa Barbara. He's got the location. Uh, he's actively going to school at the time that he issues this resume, and that's okay to do because it's showing people that you're still actively pursuing further education. I did that with my um, resume a couple years ago when I was finishing up my undergrad degree. I had, because I was pursuing my Bachelor of Social Work, so I included that in there and what my expected graduation date is. High school, he didn't put what kind of diploma he got, if he got a diploma, but he did put graduated, so one could assume that he got a diploma. But not everybody can graduate, and it's okay to mark that you got a GED. A lot of times, people who, high school might not have been something for them, or they had issues and they left or dropped out. I don't condone that, but I understand it. If someone goes back and pursues their GED certificates, that shows so much courage and fortitude and desire to better themselves that I have a complete newfound respect for those individuals. I had a or not me personally, but I guess here we had a client who was an older gentleman and he was pursuing his GED. It's never too late in life to get those things that you were unable to get earlier in life because we all learn in different ways. There's no judgment here. That being said, for your education, and this was something that I hadn't known at the time, but a lot of times people, unless you've got some sort of really stellar GPA or grade point average, or you got some certificate of special recognition, you graduated magna cum laude or summa cum laude, don't put your GPA on there because a lot of times employers aren't looking for that information. They just want to know where you went to school and what kind of degree you got. All right, our last section for today is the 6 universal rules for writing or for resume writing. I'm getting a little backwards this morning. You can apply these rules to any resume format. And over the next 2 weeks, we will look at a few other different resume formats because really it's all about personal preferences and choices and how you want to market yourself out in the world. And the formatting has to be something that you want for yourself. Rule number 1, cover all the basics. The goal is to best represent your relevant skills and accomplishments. Every resume requires these basics. Looks like I forgot my S in that. Looks awesome. See, if I would have proofread this, I would have caught that. But it was after midnight. I'm sorry. You want relevant educational degrees, certifications, and/or licenses. Do you have a CPR certification? That's something that you would add in on there. Are you licensed for something specific? That is very telling for like IT individuals. They have to have certain qualifications or certain certificates to do certain parts of the IT industry. So those are things that would be relevant to put on the resume, every time. Relevant work and volunteer experience. Like I said before, you want to put only the jobs that are relevant to the job that you're applying for. But what happens, Mr. Curtis, if that creates a 3-year gap on your resume? That can be discussed during the interview. There's other ways that we can denote those so that way It still shows up on your resume, but in a different spot that will explain that. And that's something that there was different techniques that I've learned recently on how to do that. So we'll talk about that well, because I had one between 2010 and 2012. I was unemployed and a stay-at-home father because I got laid off due to the recession, and it took me 2 years to find a job. That's a 2-year gap. How am I supposed to denote that on a resume and be proud of it? Well, we'll discuss that later. But let me tell you, it is possible. And volunteer experience. Oh, a lot of employers nowadays are looking for community engagement. What kind of volunteering are you doing? How are you giving back to society? Are you helping your community, or are you just out for yourself? One of those essential skills, those people skills that employers are looking for. You can gain a lot of people skill, customer service, uh, team building. There's a lot of different essential skills that you can improve upon and gain experience with by doing volunteer work. The contact information has to be correct, has to be current. Can't stress that enough. And then relevant and essential skills. Just like what we learned at the bullet points, any kind of relevant or essential skills based on the job description that'll help get your resume flagged. Now, you're not going to lie about these. You have to be honest with them, but it's important to cover them in full on your resume. Number two, explore other resumes for inspiration. I went to a career development class a couple years back in which part of that was everybody brought in a copy of their resume and we shared them with other people, and then we sat and we looked through and highlighted and circled stuff from other people's resumes that caught our attention. I had no idea at the time how to do that, so it was a good learning experience for me from that aspect. Another thing that it taught me was that there's so many different formats that a resume can be in, and it was amazing to see how other people were able to craft such intelligent resumes. It's a very useful tool to see how other people have written about their skills and experiences. It might give you ideas on how to list your skills and experiences. Now, you don't want to just copy and paste everything over there because you really want to make it specialized to you and to the job you're applying for, but it gives you an idea on what kind of formatting you want to do. It's a great way to uncover better ways to describe yourself. And you can select examples from the industry you're applying to help identify how others have featured similar skills and frame them in a compelling way. So I would definitely, from my personal experience, I would want to look further into any kind of social science type resume to see how they build up personal interaction type skills, people skills, coping skills, behavior analysis, de-escalation techniques. How are they listing out their stuff? Those are things that I want to do. Those are things that I would look for in other resumes for that inspiration. Use as few words as possible. I can be a very wordy person at times, and on a resume, you need to be very specific. You got to be quick and to the point. You can't write a paragraph for your job summary because no employer, no HR professional or manager is going to take the time to read through that entire paragraph. So you're just wasting space and you're wasting the time of the person looking over your interview or looking over your resume. So every employer, when reviewing resumes, needs to understand your skills, making them short, easily scannable, rather than dense, wordy paragraphs. So the example, too wordy, and this would be describing something that somebody does here at the workshop. So you could say, process clothes for stores by button zipping, tagging, then hanging them while checking the quality and meeting daily quotas. Okay, that's a lot of words, and it kind of gets confusing as to, yeah, it broke down the process for them, but Is an employer really worried about the process that you took to process those clothes? Is he looking for each individual step, the button zipping, tagging, and hanging? The employer's not really worried about that. To be more concise, you increased processing of donated goods for retail stores with a 20% reduction in quality errors. How much better does that sound for the job that you do here at this workshop? I know if somebody put that down on a resume it would catch my eye immediately more than somebody who went into to the detail above that and being too wordy. The next rule, quantify your accomplishments whenever possible. Numbers and data bring your work experience to life and demonstrate the potential impact you could have in their company if hired. So, what does that mean? Well, when you add numbers and data, you're showing that you bring value to the company or the job or the position, and it's not just a description. What have you done to improve upon the job that you were hired to do? The examples I gave you. So, an unquantified, increased quality of the amount of clothes a store could sell. Okay, I mean, in a regular way, that would sound okay. But if you want to quantify it, you want to add some numbers and data to it. You improved quality control, led to 15% increase in sellable product. Well, when you're sending that out to a retail client that you're trying to get in with, 15% increase in sellable product. That's more money in our pockets. That's what they're going to look at. So you really got to be able to quantify what you're doing. You want to add value to it. Like when I think I discussed about in one of our previous videos about my sales position at Holmes Lumber. I have to be able to add value to that, increasing sales, increasing customer count, selling more of a certain product, bringing some sort of value into what you're doing is going to help boost your resume. And that's going to be other kind of keywords that employers are looking for. Keywords, I just said keywords. The next one is use keywords that employers are using. Employers want to know that you can speak their language and know the language that is commonly used in the industry. When they see their own keywords mirrored back to them, it reinforces the idea that you are a strong candidate for the position. This works too if you post your resume online. The right keywords are critical in getting found by employers. This goes back to the tracking software and like using LinkedIn to post your resume. If that employer is saying, "Hey, I'm going to purchase the job search function at Indeed, and I'm going to scan all applicants on there, and if it pulls up the right keywords, then those resumes are going to get sent off to that employer." But two, I'm looking for individuals here that have some sort of drive for workforce development, job training, education, curriculum, community, team building, soft skills, essential skills. These are some of the things that we're looking for that we would pull back from these other resumes when we're doing searches. And if I see resumes with those information on them, then yeah, those resumes are going to get flagged and brought to my attention. To do that, you want to carefully read the job postings that interest you and take note of the terms and phrases used. And that'll be something that we work on as well in our future sessions together. Proofread, proofread, proofread. A single typo, A single typo or spelling error is sometimes enough to get your resume discarded. And that's the last thing you want to happen. You may have heard the term round file. Now, employers aren't supposed to do this, but the unofficial thing that if you got a resume that you don't like for some reason or other, say you saw person just the spelling was horrendous or they just used improper grammar, they're going to round file it, which means they're going to toss it, recycle it, or throw it away. We don't want employers doing that with the resume that you put together. You gotta proofread it. You gotta read back over it. If I would have taken the time to read back over my PowerPoint this morning, if I had had the time to read back over my PowerPoint this morning, I would have caught that one S that was missing from these and said it said the. But that's minor compared to it all. It's taking the time. You got to proofread your resume multiple times. Do a thorough line by line, word by word edit. Yes, that is exhausting. And after a while, everything looks correct. And then you send it off to an employer, and then you pull it up for the next job to change a couple things, and you notice a big glaring mistake. What? Where did that come from? Who got in and changed my resume? But it was there all along, and it just looked right because you had been so focused on everything that you missed it. Reading your resume backwards is a great way to catch minor mistakes. It's a very slow and painstaking process, but it can be done because you're forcing yourself to go back through backwards, line by line, and just making sure that the word that's there is spelled correctly and it's the proper word for the sentence. And it's going to help because you're forcing yourself to do it backwards, which is very unnatural and even hard for myself to do, let alone anybody who might have any kind of impairment would be difficult to do. But you can ask for help to do that kind of thing. Another thing that I like to do when I am even doing some papers for school, my cover letter, my resume, I'll even do it for memos and letters at work. I will put it down and I will check it the next day. Because, you're doing a thorough line by line, word by word edit, it all melds together and it looks identical. And then you send it out. But if you do it ahead of time, and then you do your line by line and then you let it set, it kind of gives your mind a chance to reset itself. And you come back tomorrow, it's like having a fresh pair of eyes looking over it and seeing something different. How many times have you gone and watched a TV show or read a book and you notice something different? Because you're looking at it from a fresh perspective. Yeah, you've already been over it before. You read it, you watched it, you've seen it all before. But you're seeing something totally different. For me, I love watching the sitcom Scrubs. I don't know how many times I have watched the entire series from beginning to end. And I'm actually doing it again right now because I just love the show. It makes me laugh. I identify with some of the characters. And it's really just a way for me to escape and take care of my mental health. I still notice new things that I hadn't noticed before when I watched the series. A unique song that I never really meant anything to me when I heard it before, or I caught some sort of visual cue, or I heard something in the dialogue. These are all things that you can pick up because you've been away from it for a bit. Doing that with your resume is the same process. You're giving yourself a way to reset and then look at it with a fresh set of eyes. And then another thing, and we do that here as well, ask a friend, your mentor, or someone you trust to review. Our training specialists here are trustworthy enough to sit and review your resume and help you get it together. And that's what we really, pride ourselves on, to be able to help get these job skills together. So, you can create it on your own. It will help you every step of the way. And then let's check it together. Let's learn this process. Let's see what we can do to build you the best possible resume. So, thank you for joining us today. I have taken a lot of your time. I appreciate those that stop by and watch this. This is some of the training that I've done with individuals here, and it's helped me build a better resume, and it's helped them build better resumes. So come back next week. We're going to put all this together. We're going to conduct an online job search. We're going to find the job we like and review the job description together. And then we're going to put a simple resume together to use and apply for the job. So how this happens, I will figure that out. But this will be what we're going to do next week. I hope to try to make it a pretty interactive process. So thank you for joining us today. This is the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Thursday. And please join me tomorrow at 10 a.m., which is Friday, May 15th, for those in case you're watching this another day. But generally, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m., I am here on Facebook Live on Goodwill Columbus community page, and we're doing something or other. So take care. Thank you.